In this video, I'm going to make a notebook to keep track of all my Raspberry Pi projects. My first step was to open up Adobe's InDesign and design my text block. As you can see on what will be the title page, I have included the Raspberry Pi logo. I have numerous pages of college ruled paper, and on the back it only made sense to include a copy of the Raspberry Pi GPIO header pinout. You can download the InDesign project file minus the header pinout chart and the logo, which for copyright reasons I can't distribute. But you can download them from the link in the description down below. Adobe's InDesign is available as a 30-day trial as part of the Adobe Creative Cloud. In order to cover this book, I'm going to use a piece of bright red marine vinyl that I have pre-cut to 18 inches by 11 inches tall. For my actual book boards, I'm using 1/4 inch Luan flooring. Gives me a nice sturdy, heavier filling book, and I've pre-cut them just a hair bit bigger than the actual size of my text block. They are 7 1/4 inches wide by 8 3/4 inches tall. I've also cut a spine for the book, which is 1 inch wide by 8 3/4 inch tall. For the end pages on the book, I have cut 2 pieces of poster board, 8.5 by 14 inches to accommodate the text block. I will be using a piece of cotton mull in order to attach the actual text block to the book boards themselves. I also have a black ribbon that I've cut to roughly 12 inches long. I like longer bookmarks. And I also have a roll of this headband material. I simply measure, cut, and glue. And it's a whole lot quicker than making your own headbands. Other items that I will be using to create this book, naturally a pair of scissors, my bone folder, some wood glue, great brand by the way, also contact cement. I will be using a 1.5 inch paintbrush as well as a smaller paintbrush to glue the spine and so forth. The next step would be to actually fold my pages in half to create my book. And this is an optional piece of equipment to use, but I do find that it makes folding paper go a lot quicker and easily. I have made my own paper folding jig. Which consists of a flat board that's square, and I put 2 end pieces on it. And to fold the paper, I merely stack, let's do half of it. I put it into the jig, push it over into the corner. I take the top piece and fold down. I know a lot of people are asking why did I not use a bone folder. I like to do my paper folding in a 2-step process. I don't know if it's any quicker, but I like to fold it first and then go over and crease it. It's quite wide. So I take my bone folder and just run it once along the spine, and you can see it has created a very crisp edge. Okay, now that I have all the paper folded and creased, you can see that creasing it gives you a much thinner and much nicer book. The next step is I've got two pieces of glue on that I have covered with parchment paper, and parchment paper just makes it easy. Glue has a really hard time sticking to it. But I'm going to put it over here in the corner of my framing jig. I'm going to take the text block and I'm going to straighten it up as much as I can. And then I'm going to put it on top of the board here and try to get it as perfect as I can. I'm going to take the other board and I'm going to put it on top, and I'm going to sandwich my text block in between the two boards. Pick up, and hopefully I have a nice, smooth, and square text block. I'm going to take some cheap clamps, and I'm going to apply clamps to the top of it so I can glue the spine of the book. I'm going to take a third clamp and I'm going to attach right down here at the bottom, just to serve as a foot. For the next step, I'm going to take my wood glue and my paintbrush, and I'm going to apply glue to the spine. Now, it's very important to note that down here when you get to the edges, you always want to brush away from the end of the book. Otherwise, brushing this way, you get glue build up here at the top of the bottom of the book, and it makes it hard to open and close. So remember, when you're at the top of the book, always brush away. And I'm applying a liberal coating of wood glue to hold the spine and together and to glue the book. After I have an initial coating of glue, I'm going to take my X-Acto knife and I'm going to put score marks into the spine, and this simply helps the rough up the surface of the text block and gives the glue a little bit better hold. And I'm going to go both directions. And this just helps give the glue more to adhere to. And at that point in time, I will finish putting the initial coat of glue on the spine. And once I have the coat of glue on, I'm going to set the book aside and let it dry. And I'm finished with my paper folding jig. And while our text block is drying, we are going to take this red piece of vinyl and position and prepare our end boards for gluing. Zoom out a little bit there. When you're doing a perfect bound book, you have to leave a gap between the spine and the end board of 1/4 of an inch plus the width of the board. I'm using 1/4 inch Luan, so 1/4 inch plus 1/4 inch is 1/2 inch. I've created some spacers. I took 2 pieces of Luan and glued them together, and I can just merely insert them with my boards, push everything tight, and easily adjust the positioning of my board. I want to leave roughly 3/4 of an inch to an inch all the way around the board. That looks good, and now that I have it positioned where I want, I'm going to take a ballpoint pen and I'm going to mark the position of the boards and the spine on the vinyl. Pull my spacer out. Going to mark my spine, the book. I'm going to pull the other spacer out, and I'm going to do the same thing. And this is so I know where to put the boards back when I go to glue them. A little hard to see with that vinyl, but you can see I have my pattern marked out onto the vinyl. I'm going to glue the boards to the vinyl. Normally I would use a paintbrush to do this, but I'm feeling a little lazy tonight, so I'm going to use a foam paint roller. I'm going to lay down a piece of paper to protect my desk, and I'm going to take the first board, charge my paint roller, and I'm going to apply an even coating of glue onto the book. And then I'm going to slide it out of the way to tack up some. I'm going to take my second board, and I'm going to apply the glue to it as well. Take it off the paper. I'm going to let it tack up. I'm going to slide I'm going to take the vinyl and I'm going to apply a coat of glue to it. With this particular vinyl, a roller makes it a whole lot easier. And you'll notice I'm not painting the outside edges of the vinyl. I guess that would be gluing, wouldn't it? And I'm going to make sure everything's got a moderate amount of glue. And I'm going to take my first board and I'm going to put it within my guidelines. I'm going to take my spacer run a quick coat of glue down the spine. And I'm going to put it in with the spacer. Take the other spacer, put it in place. And I'm going to take the second board and I'm going to put it in where it belongs. I'm going to use a ruler to make sure that my boards are indeed level. And I'm going to push down on everything. Make sure it's good and on the vinyl. I'm going to quickly flip it upside down, take my bone folder, and I'm going to rub and make sure that all the air bubbles are out. And then I'm going to quickly flip it back up, and I'm going to put a little weight on this for just a minute. And to do that, I'm going to use my paper folding rig again. And I'm going to let it sit there for a minute. While I have the book boards tacking up to the vinyl, and I've got my paper folding jig out, I'm going to go ahead and fold my 2 end covers for the next step. And as always, I'm going to run the bone folder on them. Now that they're out of the way, I'm going to grab my text block again, and we're going to take the boards off of it. It's always a good idea to have your X-Acto knife handy for this. And I open the boards up, work it a little bit, and I just cut a little bit of the glue. That way I can go up like this and it'll easily separate. Slight tear there, but that's no big deal. Open up the other board and we can do the same. As you can see, our text block is nicely glued. I'm going to immediately take my pen and on the spine I'm going to put an X so I know where the top of the book is. Nothing's more annoying than opening your final book, your finished There's nothing more annoying than opening up your finished book to find out your bookmarks are at the bottom instead of the top. So always mark the top of your spine early. And zooming in on the text block, the pages are kind of jagged and uneven. And to fix that, I'm going to use a hand sander and sand the edges of the book that have not been glued. I'm not showing the sanding in this video. You will find a link to how to sand your text block in the description down below. Before I sand the text block, I need to attach the end covers to the text block. And to do that, I'm going to put a sheet of paper down to protect my board. I'm going to take another sheet to use as a guide sheet, and I'm going to decide where I need to glue. And I'm going to leave about an inch of space. For this, I'm going to there. You notice I'm rolling away from the edge. And now that when I have it glued, I'm going to pull it off the paper, take my text block, and I'm going to put it on my text block. I'm going to turn it over. Give about another inch. Take my roller. Notice I'm rolling away from the edge. Take the paper off. Flip it over. Slide my text block over. And line it up. And push it down. I'm going back to my boards, and I'm just going to sandwich it in there. Doesn't have to be even or anything, and I'm going to put a couple clamps on it for a minute just to give the glue a good time to bond the poster board and the paper. I've let that tack up for about a minute, and as you can see, it did attach nicely. Now I'm going to sand the text block. Okay, now that we're finished with sanding the text block, you can see it created a much smoother edge to the book on all three edges, and it helps add that nice professional touch to your books. Now the next thing I need to do is attach the bookmark and finish out the spine. I'm going to take my parchment covered boards, and I'm going to sandwich my text block in, but this time I'm going to offset it some just for ease of gluing. And attach the clamps. Once again, a third clamp down at the bottom to act as a foot. Now I've previously marked the top of the book for where the bookmark goes. And this time, I'm going to use my paint roller and brushing away from the end of the book. And I'm going to apply a nice coat of glue on the spine of the book, making sure I have covered the end covers. I'm going to take my bookmark and I'm going to push it down into the glue. And at this point, I'm going to take my paintbrush and I'm going to apply some glue on top of the bookmark. And now I'm going to apply the headband material to the book, and I'm going to take a rough measurement of what I need. And I'm going to apply the headband to the book. Taking the paintbrush one more time, I'm going to apply glue to the back of the headband. And then I'm going to repeat the process down here on the bottom side. I'm going to push it down into the glue. And then use the paintbrush to apply a little bit of glue on top of it. I'm going to take my paint roller and I'm going to apply another layer of glue just to the middle of the spine. Then I'm going to take my cotton mull and I'm going to center it on the book, and I'm going to press it down into the glue. And then I'm going to take my paintbrush again and apply just a little bit of glue to the mull where it's on top of the spine. And now that that has been applied, I'm going to set it out of the way and let it dry. Okay, while our spine is drying again, I'm going to remove the paper folder. And I'm going to check to make sure that we're nice and flat, no air bubbles. And I'm going to cut the corners diagonally, leaving just a little bit of room there at the end. And for the outside edges, to attach them to the book boards, I'm actually going to use contact cement instead of wood glue. I'm going to place several pieces of paper around in order to keep from getting contact cement on my desk. Let's zoom in a little bit. And I'm going to start Now I'm going to apply contact cement to the vinyl and let it tack up so we can finish the book. And I'm going to apply it very liberally in the corners because we want to make sure that we get a good tuck when we go to fold our corners over. I'm going to apply a nice layer in the spine gap as well. That'll help give us a nice crease when we go to put the book in the book press. And I'm going to apply contact cement to the first half inch of the board all the way around. Make sure you always use contact cement in a well ventilated space because this is some strong smelling stuff. I'll admit it, it's always at this point in the project that I get impatient and I don't let my contact cement tack up as long as I should. So in order to do that, I've set a timer for 10 minutes so I can keep track of how long the glue has actually been dry. You want it to be nice and tacky in order to get your nice tight corners when you fold your edges over. Okay, now that our glue has tacked up, we're going to fold the tops and bottoms and then the sides over. And we're going to start here on the spine and we're going to pull it real tight and fold it over. And we're going to do the same all the way down the spine. Just pulling it nice and tight. And we'll take our bone folder and just to make sure that the vinyl is making good contact with the contact cement. We'll turn it over and do the other side now. Now for the corners. And this is where it's important that you let your glue tack up. What we're going to do is just pinch the corner in. Like so. And we're going to do that on both ends. And then we're going to pull it tight and fold it over. And the tackier your glue is, the better your corners will look. We're going to push them down, pinch the corners, and pull it over and push it down into the contact cement. Take the bone folder and do the same. As you can see, we have acceptable ends. Okay, at this point, I want to put a little weight on it for another minute. So I'll go back to my paper folding jig, and while that's down, I'm going to check our text block. And it has dried enough to where we can work with it. So we're going to take the clamps off. Verify that our bookmark is at the top of the page. I'll slide the bookmark in and out of the way. And we are ready to attach this to the binding. We'll take our paper rig off. Make sure everything is just as tight as we can get it. And we are going to test fit our text block and our binding. But first we're going to take our bone folder and make ridges where the spine is. That just helps ensure that it's going to fold it's going to fold inward instead of outward. I'll put our text block there, bring our board up, and do the same with the other. And it looks like it's going to be a pretty good fit. So we're going to mark where our text block was. And we are going to apply glue to the mold and to the end covers and attach it to the board. And for that, we're going to use our paint roller. And we're going to just come in and paint the wood. Now we are not gluing the spine. And I'm going to insert a piece of paper right here in between the two pages just to catch glue. And I'm going to take our paint roller and I'm going to roll a nice layer of glue onto the text block and the maul. We'll pull the piece of paper out. And I'm going to align our text block. And I'm going to make sure that I have an equal distance between the top of the book and the bottom of the book. I'm going to fold the board over. And then I'm going to slide the text block in. Lay it down flat. Make sure everything looks good. And then I'm going to take the paint roller again. I'm going to insert a piece of paper in between the two end sheets. Once again, it's a glue trap. I've got my paint roller nice and primed, and once again I'm going to apply glue. Making sure to get the mole, and toward the edge of the book you always go away from the book. We pull the paper out. We are going to fold it over. And put the two ends together. We're going to apply just a little bit of pressure. And do a quick open. Looks like everything's lined up. You can see we got a little bubbles right here, but our contact cement has not set up yet totally, so I'm not concerned with it. And then the final step, I'm going to place two Luan boards. These are the same boards as my parchment covered, but are not parchment covered. And I'm going to line them up to right where they meet the spine there. And coming in the width of the board plus just a fraction more. And I'm going to flip the book over and I'm going to find where the board's at. Quarter of an inch plus just a hair. And then I'm going to apply a clamp. And I'm going to apply another clamp, as well as a third one. Right down here. Now when I let this dry, I'm going to let it dry upside down with all the weight resting on the spine, so that I know my spine is nice and flat. Now we'll let the book dry overnight. Now that we've let the book dry all night, let's see what we got. We'll start by taking the clamps off. And the boards, we got a decent crease. On the back side, we have another decent crease. Everything appears to be glued down well. The book is square. Got a little indentations from the clamp right there, but those will rub out. Book opens nicely. Book opens nicely. And it will fold flat. Now tomorrow we'll take this to the laser engraver and we'll have our modified Raspberry Pi logo cut into the cover of the book.